Hello everybody, I'm Kate Cass, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About. Today, let's talk about Ducktales. Yeah, the show might be over, but I still have quite a few more episodes I want to talk about. Don't worry, I will get to reviewing the finale, just not for a few months. I'll admit though, I had trouble deciding which episode to tackle next. So, for an extra bit of fun, I let you guys decide between two of them in my community tab. And it was a very, very close race. Way closer than I thought actually, like at some points it was evenly 50-50. It was kind of insane. But ultimately, the winner was the Phantom and the Sorceress. So, let's talk about it. As Team Magic settles in after yet another hectic sleepover, they come across an intruder in the mansion, the Phantom Blot. With Scrooge and the boys trapped in another dimension, the girls have to use Lena's magic to stop this madman, but to do that, they have to consult the Shadow Sorceress herself, Magica Dispel. You know, it's kind of a shame Team Magic only got this one episode to play around with in Season 3, but it was still a pretty good showcase of what makes them such a great team. They're a tight-knit group now, so this time it's just about seeing their strength and camaraderie stand against tough forces, whether that's an external or internal struggle. And while to me, this episode is a great demonstration of what makes these girls such a strong team, above all else, this is most certainly Lena's story. Webby and Violet are mostly there in a support capacity. That doesn't mean Webby and Violet don't get fun moments of their own. I especially love seeing how much more Violet's learned about magical beings and goes the extra mile in her approaches to tackling magical obstacles. Like when she's prepared to fight vampires because statistically, they're due. It's kind of a shame we never did get vampires on the show. We could have had a crossover with Duckula. Webby also has some great lines and comedic moments, but her main role this time around is being a safe, supportive presence for Lena as she struggles with trying to control her magic. The episode has a pretty great opening displaying just how volatile Lena's magic is and what little control she has over the power of Magica's amulet. Basically, we're seeing the tail end of yet another chaotic sleepover. I'd say something to the effect of you think they'd learn to just hang out in other ways at this point, but it seems like Webby is determined to keep the sleepovers going.
Maybe we should just stop having sleepovers. Maybe you should rethink that sentence.
That is a face you cannot argue with, at least if you value your life. What's interrupting the party this time is the proper introduction of the Phantom Blot, played by Mr. Gus himself, Giancarlo Esposito. Another perfect casting choice for the show if you ask me. Esposito really disappears into the part, but still has full command of the character. It's excellent. Phantom Blot was one of those recruits of Foul that I was anxiously waiting to see get their big appearance on the show, and he did not disappoint. The second you see this guy show up, you know you're in trouble, and he certainly has the power and resourcefulness to back up his intimidating presence. All of that would be enough to make him a memorable baddie, but then they add the most important ingredient to any villain: strong motivation. He's able to harness and siphon magic from those who possess it thanks to his gauntlet, but not for his own pursuit of unlimited power, but because he believes magic is too dangerous and should be eradicated from the world. So, he's Mordo from Doctor Strange.
I see at long last what's wrong with the world. Too many sorcerers.
I think he's the only recruit of Foul to have a motive even remotely close to resembling Bradford's, trying to purge the world of another type of chaos. With Bradford, it's adventure, and with Blot, it's magic. We later find out that he has a powerful vendetta against a certain sorceress who destroyed his village long ago. Sending him on this revenge quest against all magic users has probably been going for decades now. Who is that sorceress? Take a wild guess. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but I'm kind of surprised at how stingy they got with Magica's appearances after her big Season 1 story arc. She only had 2 appearances in Season 2, and going by air dates, it was quite some time before we saw her again in Season 3. It always seemed kind of weird to me for such an iconic DuckTales villain to be so rarely used, but maybe it makes the time she does show up more special. And this was certainly a special appearance if you ask me, because Lena gets to have the worst reunion ever when the girls search for Magica as she's the only one they know who knows enough about magic to train Lena, eventually finding her hid away in a hollowed out tree in a dingy bog, with her face carved into it.
You have a bit of a complex, don't you?
The inside is equally funny. I love these motivational quotes hung all over the place, and much like her greatest enemy, the true sign of Magica hitting her lowest point is having her house stacked with pizza boxes. This is basically DuckTales shorthand for someone hitting rock bottom, and it is effective. My question though is, what pizza place did she find willing to deliver all the way out here? And I need to emphasize again just how marvelous Catherine Tate is in this role, because it cannot be emphasized enough.
Now you're susceptible to vampires. No, seriously, what do you want with me?
I know I said I wanted Lena to go to magic school, but this is not what I had in mind. There's definitely some well-earned tension in the air from where they left things, and the fact that neither of them is happy about the situation. But they quickly realize that if they want to stop the Phantom Blot, they have to work together. Lena's been struggling with her powers to the point that she starts to want nothing to do with them, but right now, they need her to control her magic, and she has to rely on her least favorite person in the world to show her how. I know some people had issues with Lena having to go back to Magica to harness that power after she worked so hard to separate herself from her, and that is valid. But to me, it felt like it was more about Lena tapping into her own power and owning that freedom rather than relinquishing any of it, something she'll really learn to embrace later in the episode. I think what makes all this easier as well is that she has her friends supporting her all the way, especially Webby, who knows that they need Magica's help, but is being as comforting as she can in a situation that she knows is hard for her best friend. Magica, on the other end, makes it no secret that she wants her powers for herself, pretty much fighting and clawing at Lena the entire time to get her amulet back like she's the villain in a cereal commercial. But once she realizes who they're up against and that they aren't just going to give her her magic, she decides to take the smarter approach and protect herself by teaching Lena. Because, if nothing else, Magica can play the long game with cunning strategy. She knows that right now, without Lena, she's a dead duck. But make no mistake, there is no sentiment here. Lena is to Magica what she's always been, a means to an end. Once they deal with this threat, and also while they're working on doing that, she's still set on reclaiming her magic for herself. It's an episode that, after having powerless Magica for quite some time now, reminds you of just how self-centered and power-hungry she really is, even if it means throwing her own family under the bus to get it, no matter how close that family might be. But that's a subject for another day. For now, training montage, with a rocking training montage song. Why didn't this show produce more songs? I can't think of one I didn't like. It's debatable how helpful this training is, but it does give us some cool and funny moments, and of course, an awesome song. I kinda like the balance they strike with the dynamics here. Magica knows more than they do about magic, but she's not a great or encouraging teacher. Lena's reluctant to channel magic so much since it's caused her nothing but trouble, but starts to see that there might be more to her than she thought. The training montage doesn't last nearly as long as they need it to, since the Phantom Blot is hot on their trail and they need to act fast, leading to a confrontation that has some pretty great moments in it. Like when the girls team up to try to get Blot's glove off, and Magica trying to intimidate him with her Funzo's magic. Wait a minute, wasn't Phantom Blot disguised as the mascot of Funzo's? How come he never did anything to Magica when she was forced to work there? Maybe it was a condition of joining foul, but man, that must have taken some restraint. It's a fight where they're clearly outmatched, but it's a cool display of teamwork and reluctant alliances from all involved. Well, almost all. Because if you've seen this episode, or if you haven't and you're just looking at the screenshots, you might have noticed a character that I haven't really talked about yet. That's because I had to wait to do that, since it's what prevents a really good episode from being great. Gladstone Gander. Gladstone shows up early on in the episode, very distressed because he's lost his luck thanks to Phantom Blot. Now, I want to be clear here. This is an amazing idea. They immediately explore its comedic potential by showing Gladstone having to walk through life as a regular person who doesn't have everything handed to them on a silver platter. Probably literally in some cases knowing Gladstone. So not only does Gladstone have to accompany the kids on a deadly quest without his greatest asset, his luck, but he has to deal with not having something that pretty much makes up his entire identity. Something that is somewhat similar to what Lena is going through, of having to struggle with an uncontrollable force that she believes defines who she is. This is a very solid framework for the episode. So what do they do with Gladstone here?
Nothing!
That's not an exaggeration. Most of the episode has Gladstone sulking in the corner about losing his luck and never going any deeper with that. The sad thing is that this is the perfect conflict you could give Gladstone Gander to challenge and grow him as a character. But where the plot of this episode is concerned, you could cut him out and lose nothing. Sure, he's decent foreshadowing to what the Phantom Blot is capable of, but Blot trapping Scrooge and the triplets in that goat dimension, the same one from the Golden Spear I think, would would have served the same purpose. At least Webby and Violet offer essential support for their friend, but after they leave the mansion, Gladstone offers next to nothing of value. But you know what? They almost get to something resembling a revelation at one point. During the fight with Blot, Gladstone jumps in when he's needed most to grab the amulet when it falls out of Lena's grasp, stepping up to the plate despite his disadvantages, which is then ruined 2 seconds later when he zaps himself with the amulet, turns into Donald, and then runs off until his luck is restored.
You disappoint me in every way possible!
I realize what I'm about to say here might be a bold statement, but in my eyes, this subplot with Gladstone might be the biggest missed opportunity in the entire DuckTales reboot. I mean it. How do you have the perfect obstacle for Gladstone losing his luck and then do nothing meaningful with it? It's Iron Man 3 all over again.
Come on!
Luckily, Lena succeeds where Gladstone fails in having character development, by realizing her own power when it's almost taken from her. Most of Lena's character development over the show has been through realizing she can be her own person and distancing herself from her aunt Magica. All this time, Lena thought her only magic was connected to Magica, therefore never truly being free from her influence. That only seemed to be confirmed by the fact that she needed Magica's help to properly control the magic she took from her. But in a pretty clever reveal, Lena discovers that she has her own magic not tied to the amulet, but within herself. Magic is part of her being. As Webby says, she's literally made out of it. So for Lena to become her own person like she's wanted for so long, she now has the knowledge to remove a crutch she's been carrying around with her, the amulet containing that last link to Magica Dispel. She doesn't even find that strength through Magica's lessons, but in her desire to protect the people who saw her for who she was and truly believe in her, reminding her of the freedom and support she has now. So yes, viewers, once again, it's proven that friendship is the true magic.
We keep telling bad guys, but y'all just don't seem to remember.
Oh yeah, and Lena gets a new look. I'll admit, I didn't love it at first. There was nothing really wrong with it, it was just such a big change. But I've warmed up to it much more in the time since this episode aired, especially since it turns out it's not a permanent change. It's more of a magical girl transformation for special occasions, which makes it better. As the creators stated several times during Season 3's run, this season was all about legacy, and this was a conflict that definitely shaped Lena's. How she's fully and completely her own person with her own strengths and goals. It's pretty powerful in how complete it feels. But since Lena doesn't need Magica's amulet anymore, she finally snatches it up and gets her powers back. Whoops. Well, we'll worry about that another time. All that matters now is that friendship magic reigns supreme. Overall, The Phantom and the Sorceress is a really good arc of a story with a giant unavoidable fault keeping it from being great. It has a lot going for it. A really intimidating villain, a very strong premise to provide well-established conflict, some really funny moments, and reinforces the bonds within Team Magic. But it's hard for a lot of fans to ignore the one area of wasted potential, and I don't blame them. This was a golden opportunity to expand and evolve Gladstone, one that they gave themselves, and it's so strange to me that it just didn't go anywhere. You could argue that it's because there was bigger stuff going on, but like I said, Gladstone's struggles could have matched really well with Lena's. And DuckTales is usually really good at parallel personalities driving story and character development, so I have no idea what happened here. But as I said at the beginning, at the end of the day, this is and always was Lena's story. Another, and now we know final step, of being free from her toxic family and becoming her own better person. That's where this episode shines. Having faith in the family you make for yourself that can help you realize your own inner strength. In that respect, The Phantom and the Sorceress is great. It's just unfortunate it couldn't all be great when the pieces were there. That really is bad luck. Thanks for watching, everyone. Definitely let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. That's why this series is called Let's Talk About. I want to give a very special thanks to my patrons who help support my content, including David L. Sproul, Sebastian Canino of Cinemageddon Reviews, Chelsea Crandall, Hawk Hero, and Crowless. If you'd like to join these fine people in supporting my content while getting cool exclusive perks, you can check out my Patreon page at the link in the description, as well as my other social media if you'd like to follow me on any of those. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.